Okay, so we will continue na ang ating discussion about this subject, Fundamentals of Accountancy, Business and Management, Part 1. So next school year, pag-aaralan nyo naman ay Part 2. Okay, before we proceed, let's begin with the Bible verse for the week. And I already mentioned this last Monday, and I do hope na memorize yun na itong Bible verse na ito. Sabi nga sa Isaiah 49:15, can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born? Yes. The answer is yes, though she may forget. This is very impossible that a woman or the mother forget her baby, but it is possible, no? It is nangyayari naman talaga. No? Pagkaman nasabi nga natin na very impossible, very rare, pero nangyayari. Kaya, ang sabi, but the good thing is, God says, I will not forget you. So even our mother forget us, but God will not forget us. So this is a very comforting verse to everyone of us. Okay, so last time we talked about the chapter 5 of this book, Fundamentals of Accountancy, Business and Management, Part 1, entitled Types of Businesses According to Activities. So we already discussed the three major types of businesses according to activities. The first one is service. We already discussed that in service there are no tangible products. There are no tangible products. So they are offering or company offered their services, not selling their products. So the products they offer is not the physical product, but rather their services. Like for example, the salons, no, mga hospital, no, ang kanilang produkto ay yung kanilang serbisyo. And the transport company and other companies involved in service. All right? And another types of business ay tinatawag nating merchandising. Merchandising. In merchandising, there's a tangible products, of course. And example nga dito yung mga retailer, yung mga sari-sari store, no? They purchase a products to, let's say for example, sa Pure Gold, and then binili halimbawa nila yung coffee or yung coffee ng 7 pesos, yung isang peraso or the cost of the coffee nung binila sa Pure Gold ay 7 pesos, and then tinubuan nila. So, nilagyan nila ng markup, and then ginawa na nilang 8 pesos nung naroon na sa kanilang store. So the same product but different price. So, doon kumikita naman ang mga merchandiser or yung involved sa merchandising company. Okay? So, and the other types of business, we call it manufacturing. So, ito medyo masalimuot when it comes to manufacturing because there's a lot of things involved. So, there's our raw materials involved, and then we need to convert it into finished goods. The best example nga dito yung negosyo nila Maverick. So let's say for example, they want to produce a finished goods which is tinola. Let's say for example lang, no? Kasi minsan nakabil ako ng tinola sa kanila. No? And then, of course, ang kanilang raw materials nariyan ang sayote o di kaya papaya. Nariyan ang chicken, of course, and then mga ricado. And gagamitan siyempre ng labor, no? Part of the cost of the expenses, yung labor, of course, lulutuin ng tatay, halimbawa ni Maverick. Kaya naman sila may katulong magluto. And then, nariyan din ang mga, let's say, mga other expenses like yung stove. Siyempre, hindi maluluto kung wala silang lutuan. So there's a lot of things involved in manufacturing before we create or we produce the finished goods. Okay, so those are the three different types of businesses according to their activities. And also, I already mentioned the last meeting that you can be a business owner or a businessman as well. Let's say, for example, nakagraduate na kayo and then naging certified public accountant. You can put a business like accounting firm. No? You're offering your expertise, your service to different businesses na, let's say, for example, magkakaroon ng pa-consult, no? Auditing firm or accounting firm. Nahihingi sa inyo ng advice. So that's part of business as well. Accounting firm. So now, we will continue our discussion and we are on the chapter 6. And this is all about accounting concepts and principles. What are these accounting concepts and principles? Accounting concepts, principles, and assumptions are essential in the practice of accountancy. Financial statements become more comparable and more useful to users if these concepts, principles, and assumptions are followed by the business. So in preparation of financial statements, and I do believe this will be part of your discussion in your part 2, fundamentals of accounting, fundamentals of ABM, part 2, next school year, first step, the preparation of financial statements. So in preparing a financial statements, we have a lot of principles, or we have a principles to be followed because that's mandated by accounting standards. So accounting concepts, principles, and assumptions serve as the foundation of accounting in order to avoid misunderstanding and enhance the understanding and usefulness of the financial statement. So meron tayong mga guide. Hindi pwedeng mag-prepare ka ng FS without following those guidelines. No, and this, kilalang kasi ito si Valix because he is an author ng maraming libro related to accounting. Now, once you are already in the college, yan, mga libro ni Valix mag-aaralan. And here are, or these are the accounting concept, principles, and assumptions. Kunwari na accrual accounting, matching principles, going concern assumption, accounting entity, assumptions, use of judgment, estimates, time period assumptions, prudence, general accepted accounting principles, or tinatawag na GAAP, substance over form, and then narin din ang IFRS and PFRS, or International Financial Reporting Standard and Philippine Financial Reporting Standard. So let's discuss this one by one. Accrual accounting. So the fundamental idea of accrual accounting can be stated as follows. Ano nga ba itong accrual accounting? The effects of business transactions should be recognized in the period in which they occurred. Income should be recognized in the period when it is earned, regardless of when the payment is received. Expenses should be recognized in the period when it is incurred, regardless of the expenses are paid. So, in other words, accrual accounting, let's say for example, si Shaira. Let's say for example, Shaira ay may business. Of course, may business. And then, ang kanyang business ay, let's say, salon. Magaling siguro mag-ayos ng buhok. And then, nagpagupit halimbawa si Trisha. Yan, magpapagupit si Trisha. And itong si Trisha ay walang pambayad. Kilala naman si Shaira. O sabi, maring Shaira, next week ko na lang babayaran. Sinabi, nagupitan na. May magagawa pa halimbawa si Shaira ay nagupitan. Sige, okay na yan. So, in this case, the accountant ay kailangan ng mag-record ng revenue. So, even without the payment. No, hindi naman nagbayad si pero the service already rendered. No? Once the service already rendered, the revenue must recognize. O, yan ang sinasabi ng accrual accounting. Even without cash involved, ay dapat nang ma-record sa revenue. No? Yan. So, ang recording niyan ay accounts receivable. It means mayroong tatanggapin or inaasahang tatanggapin si Shira, and then credit natin sa service revenue. Yan. Pag-aaralan natin sa mga susunod na mga pagkakataon, yung mga entries. Yan. Okay, so ganun din sa mga expenses. So let's say for example, itong let's say si Kaina, no? Naka-receive siya ng billing kay Meralco. So even na hindi pa niya nababayaran ang Meralco bill, na-receive pa lang niya, no? The moment you receive the Meralco bill, you need to record it as your expense. Okay? So mayroon na kagad ikaw na i-record sa yung accounting book na expense, even hindi ka pa naman nakakapagbayad. So ang entry niya na, let's say, pwede natin sabihin utilities expense na nasa debit and then credit to accounts payable. So here, in accrual accounting, ang involved dito lagi ay accounts receivable and accounts payable. Yeah, take note of that. Okay, so an accountant does not have to wait for cash. Ayun yung sinasabi ba nila, to be received or for cash to be paid before he or she records a business transactions. Because the accrual accounting, use of accounts such as accounts receivable, accounts payable, prepaid expenses, accrued expenses, deferred income, and accrued income are possible. So take note of this. No? Those accounts, pag-aaralan natin sa mga susunod na ating lesson. Okay. So expound natin yung mga accounts na yan. Alright, so the opposite of accrual accounting is the cash basis of accounting. Of course, dito sa cash basis, walang mangyayaring recording as long as natanggap mo yung cash. So, cash accounting or cash basis na tawag mo, cash basis of accounting. Magre-record ka lang kapag may cash basis of accounting. Next natin is, next principle ay matching principle. So, the matching principle is closely related to accrual accounting. Under the matching principle, expenses are recognized in the same period as the related revenue. The matching principle states that related revenues and expenses should always go together. In other words, if the revenues are recorded in period 1, the related expenses should also be recorded in period 1. So remember na before tayo maka-generate ng revenue, there's a corresponding expense. There's a corresponding expense lagi yan. So let's say for example, that's a service, barbershop tayo. So what are your expenses for the period? Siyempre, yung gastos mo sa kuryente. No? Hindi naman gagana yung mga clippers. Ano bang tawag nun sa panggupit na yan? No? Hindi yan gagana kung walang kuryente. Of course, ngayon mga barbershop, naka-aircon. So those are the expenses. And then before you gain or you can generate income, there's a funding expense. Kaya naman, matching principle, you should record revenue and expense at the same period. So magkano yung expense for this period? Let's say for example, for this month, magkano expense? Lahat ng expenses should be recorded and the revenue as well. Okay? So matching. Kaya nga matching, matching. How much is the revenue and how much is the expense? So, of course, yung matitira, that's your profit. Yun talaga yung iyong after subtracting revenue to your expenses. And of course, maganda kung positive amount. Why? Because profit yun. But kapag negative, there's a loss. Okay? So next, remember that under the matching principle, expenses follows the related revenue. Like accrual accounting, the matching principle provides more accurate and more reliable information in the financial statements. It prevents understatement of expenses in one period while overstating expenses in the next period. No? So ito, napakahalaga yung matching principle. Why? Because nagiging accurate ang ating financial statements. Kasi Kung ano yung expenses for this period, dapat ma-recognize. Kung ano yung revenue for this period, dapat ma-recognize for that period. Parang ito yung timeliness din, no? Itinuturo sa atin ito yung pagiging timeliness. No? Kasi iba, ay tamad mag-record. No? Hindi pwede ganun sa accounting. Dapat kung ano yung dapat ma-record for this month, dapat ma-record. Kaya mostly, napaka-busy sa accounting department kapag mga month, lalo na kapag year-end. Kasi dapat lahat ng mga expenses and revenue for that month ay na-record. Kasi kung hindi mo siya ma-record on that day or the last day of the month, it will be reflect on in the next month. And then, anong mangyayari? Mababa ang magiging expense or revenue for this month, and then next month medyo mataas. So, hindi yun ang sinasuggest sa accounting. Kaya nga tayo ay mayroong matching principle. Next, use of judgment and estimates. Now, accounting estimates are approximation made by accountants or the management in the preparation of financial statements. The use of reasonable state estimates is an essential part of the preparation of financial statements and does not undermine their reliability. No? Use of estimates and judgment. Let's say, for example, warranty expense is an item in the accounting records that requires the use of estimates. No? Kapag kayo bumili ng mga gamit, no, meron yung mga warranty. No? So magkakaroon na ang dapat use of judgment and estimate. So let's say sa tabi natin, itong product na ito, baka sakaling isauli. O di, mayroong warranty expense tayong ma-incur. So we need to use the proper judgment. No? Hindi naman kalakihan, kundi talagang sakto lamang dun sa ating ini-estimate. No? Proper use of estimation. So that is use of judgment and estimates. Judgment used in making accounting estimates should be backed up by a reasonable basis. Reasonable basis ang kailangan natin. Why? Based on the previous transaction. Let's say for example nga, best example yung warranty. No? On our previous transaction, ilan ba yung nagsauli? No? Ilan ba yung nagsauli ng mga produkto na nasira within the warranty period? So, we need to recognize or we need to know the past transaction for us to recognize the best estimates. Yan. So tayo lagi nakatingin sa nakaraan. No? Kaya mga accountancy accounting graduate ay laging tumitingin sa nakaraan. Mahirap daw laging nag-uungkat ng mga nakaraan. Mahirap yan. Huwag i-apply sa totoong buhay. Ha? Baka lagi pag kayo nagkaroon ng kasintahan ay laging inuungkat ang nakalipas. Yan. Practice only this in accounting, but not in real life. So prudence naman in the accounting sense is also called conservatism. When applying the concept of prudence, an accountant makes sure that income and assets are not overstated and liabilities and expense are not overstated. No? Prudence or conservative. No? Actually, ito, meron siyang sabi sa akin na nabasa libro, we cannot count a chicken. No? Hindi natin pwedeng bilangin ang magiging sisiw kung ito'y itlog pa lamang. Yan yun, no? The best example niyan, conservatism. Kasi nga naman pwedeng mabugok. Diba? So, we need to be conservative. And that's the characteristic as well ng isang accountant. Conservatism. Well, in fact, medyo, sa mga entrepreneur, medyo nagkukontrahan sila. Kasi ang mga entrepreneur, mga business owner, businessmen, they are looking or they are estimating or projecting their revenue or their sales. But in accounting, no. hindi tayo magpo-project. So we need to what? To become conservative. Sabi, para saan yun? No? To avoid overstatement or overstated of expenses. Income and assets are not overstated, and liabilities and expense are not overstated. And according pa rin kay Valix, in the simplest word, conservatism means in case of doubt, record any loss and do not record any gain. No, record any loss. Mas mainam pa nga daw mag-record ng loss kaysa mag-record ng gain. Why? No, kapag kayo record ng gain, pero mayroon kayong doubt, and then, pag sinabing gain, that's profit. No? And then, hindi naman pala kayo kikita dun sa project na yun, na i-record yun na. So, pangit sa accounting, ano yun, record, no? Sa accounting, as a financial statement. But, if you record the loss, nag-record ka ng loss, pero kalaunan, gain pala, ay mas magandang tingnan. No? Kaya yan ang tinatawag na conservatism. Mas mainam pa nga daw na mag-record ng loss kaysa mag-record ng gain. So Albert Prudence is the preferred course of action when making judgment. Deliberately being too conservative is not an allowed practice. Next tayo is all about substance over form. So ano naman kaya itong substance over form? Information presented in financial statement of the company should truthfully and faithfully represented. Truthfully and faithfully represented. So very important na ngayon pa lang, develop a sense of faithfulness. Maging tapat sa pag-record. Kasi pwede mo kasing dayain, no? Dayain ang financial statement. So let's say, for example, no, ito ginagawa ito ng mga company. When I was in the office, the accounting department, marami ko nasasabihin ko ng company since marami naman akong napasukan na before. Nagtataka ako, bakit kaya yung mga interest expense, no, ay hindi ipinare-record sa akin. There's a lot of interest, expense na binibuild kasi nasa accounts payable ako, hindi pinare-record. Why? Because once we record it, ano mangyayari? Bababa ang revenue. No? Bababa ang kanilang revenue. And it will affect to their investors as well as, let's say, for example, mangungutang sila and then makikita na, ay, ang dami nyo palang expenses, no? Ang dami nyo ang liit ng inyong income, ang dami expenses, so baka hindi sila pautangin o di kaya naman kung may mga prospects silang investors, sabi, bakit nga ba sila mag-i-invest kung nakikita naman nila na maliit na income, no? So those are the scenario, no? Kaya ang sabi, substance over form, one of the concept and principle in accounting, that we need to present the financial statements of the company truthfully and faithfully. Yan. Huwag tayo magpapa-affect. No? Pwede niyong questionin. Actually, na-question ko yun. And then, wala rin ako gagawa. Hindi naman kasi ako ang CPA or accountant. Ako ay bookkeeper during the time. Accounting assistant. Accounting clerk. Most of the time, the substance of the transaction does not differ from legal form. An example is the sale of goods. In this transaction, there can be no doubt that the substance and legal form of this transaction is sale. Next natin is all about going concern assumption. So ano kaya naman itong going concern assumption? The going concern assumption states that the operation of a business will continue indefinitely into the future. This means the operation of the business will not stop in the near future and it will not be forced to liquidate its asset to pay off its liability. No? Going concern, going to the flow. Ang isang company that will continue indefinitely in the future. Magpapatuloy at magpapatuloy. Okay? The following items are evidence that the company is not going concern. So ito yung mga ano naman, no? ito naman yung mga evidence na hindi na magpapatuloy ang negosyong ito, no? Magsasarado na. Okay, so first is the results of your relation consistently show losses. Okay, kung January, February, March ay puro lugi ang nangyayari, ano nang mangyayari? So, ibig lamang ipahiwatig nito, this is one of the evidence that the company is not going concern. So, marahil ay maaaring magsara o ng business nito. Okay, inability to pay obligation, of course. Dami ng bangko ang naniningil, no? Lahat na ng mga financial institution nagpadala ng liham para sabihan na magbayad na ng pagkakautang. Inability to pay the obligation of the company in time, no? In time, take note of this, no? In time, very important. Why? Once you delayed payment, kapag kayo na late na ngayong payment, it incurred interest. At kapag may interest, ang patong-patong na ang bayarin. No, kaya nga, inability to pay the obligation. Loans default, no? Mga pagkakautang talaga, loans default. Suppliers do not sell on credit to the company. Yung supplier mo, parang wala na kayong good relationship. Remember, halos lahat, well, in fact, lahat talaga, no? Ng mga company, mostly, yung mga malalaking business, ay may mga utang yan. No, yung meron silang good relationship sa suppliers, and then, ayan, maibebenta na muna yung produkto bago pa bayaran si suppliers. Ayan, kung hindi na nagpapautang, si suppliers, of course, mapipilitan ka maglabas ng cash, and then napakahalaga ng cash ng company. It is the nagpapakita ng liquidity ng isang company kapag maraming cash. Kaya kung maaaring utangin muna, no? Kasi mga suppliers ng, let's say, kayo ay may bakery, no? Bakery ang inyong negosyo. That's manufacturing as well, no? And then, yung supplier ng harina ayaw nang magpautang. Di bibilhin nyo ang harina ng cash sa pamamagitan ng inyong pera. And papaano na yung iba ng mga pagkakagastusan. So, napakahalaga ng good relationship between you and the suppliers. Kasi mga suppliers, pwede mo sabihin, sige, utang mo na. And then, after 30 days, saka ko mabayaran. So, ibig sabihin, na-ibenta mo na yung tinapay. Nagawa mo ng harina nagawa mo ng tinapay yung harina at na-ibenta mo na. Saka ka pala magbabayad. Napakahalaga yan. Yung good relationship. Legal proceedings against the company. No? Marami nang nag-claim. No? Maybe yung inyong company ay, let's say, kung bakery nga, ay marumi daw. Let's say, yung safety, yung mga Food and Drugs Administration, sabi, medyo marumi. Ayan, so legal proceedings, marami nang nagagalit. Marami nang nagre-reklamo sa mga legal proceedings against the company. Next natin is accounting entity assumptions. According to the accounting entity assumptions, the business, which can be a sole proprietorship, is separate from the owner's manager employees operating the business. No? Accounting entity assumptions. So, ang pera ni owner ay different yan sa pera ng business. Kung in-invest mo yung pera mo, let's say for example, si Jervin, nagtayo siya ng negosyo na car wash, car talyer. Ang kanyang initial investment ay let's say 500,000. Yung 500,000 na yun, dapat sa business yun. Hindi mo gagastos yan for your personal use. And in case gastusin mo for your personal use, you should record it into the accounting books. And then what would be the entry? That's your own, or that is the owner's withdrawal. So sabi, bakit ko pa kailangan record yan? Ay, ano naman yan, akin yan. No? Dahil nga sa accounting entity assumption. Every transaction must be recorded. Your money that put it into the business ay kailangan mo siyang i-record na pagmamayari ng business. Likewise, the person own multiple business, each business is distinct. No? Let's say naman, ito, Katulad din yan, no, yung aking binabanggit, let's say naman, marami kang business. So, different accounting records yun. No? Hindi pa pwedeng pare-parehas ng record. Dapat meron silang separate or distinct from each other. Let's say, for example, si Ma'am, meron silang karinderya. So, ang recording nun ay separate from sa kanyang halimbawa salon o di kay pawn shop. So, separate dapat ang accounting records. So, the asset and liabilities of the three businesses should not be mixed. Hindi dapat pagsasamahin kasi nga, remember yung ating mga previous study na those are registered separately in the government. No? So, Securities Exchange Commission or sa Department of Trade and Industry. So, separate yan. So, hindi yan magkakasama. So, different registered name. So, must be different, no? Or different yung kanilang accounting records. So, time period assumptions. Users of the accounting information of a company needs periodic reports to enable them to make economic decisions. And owners or stockholders needs report consistently to decide if he or she will keep his or in ownership interest in the company. Okay, so time period assumption naman. So the accounting information dapat meron tayong periodic reports, accounting period. Kaya nga sabi ng aming professor when I was in college, ang accounting daw ay pakbabae. Why? Because may period. May period. May mga kalokohan lang ng aming professor. And yeah, so we need to what? We need to record or timely check or meron tayong tinatawag na closing of the book. So every I think every year dapat ma-close yung books. Close yung books. So time period assumption. Hindi pwedeng ipagpabukas. Kailangan ay sumusunod tayo sa mga period na yan. No? Kahit naman po ba yun, hindi naman sasabihin, ay, bukas na lang ako mag-kerwan. Hindi ganon. Ganon din naman sa accounting. No? We need to what? To follow the time period. The time period assumption states that the indefinite life of the company can divide into periods of equal length for the preparation of financial reports. No? Preparation of financial reports. No? Sometimes mga company monthly nagpe-prepare yan ng financial reports. But yung mga company na gumagamit ng manual system, yung pagre-record na sinusulat sa columnar, ay medyo mahirap yan para sa kanila. No? But those who are using accounting software, like, nariyan kasi marami na ngayon accounting software, I experience using Xero. And then, nariyan din ang QuickBooks by desktop, mayroon din ang online. Mayroong Sage 50, mayroong Oracle, mayroong SAP, SAP, and other accounting software. Once you are knowledgeable with that, napakadali nyo mahal as an accounting maybe manager or something, accounting supervisor or whatever accounting jobs. And also, when I was in Starbucks, we are using Microsoft Nav. So there's a lot of accounting software that medyo madali na mag-prepare ng financial statements or financial reports. But those who are still using manual systems, medyo mahirap. Kaya they prefer to make a financial reports yearly. And that's the suggested din naman. No? Yearly talaga ang pag-prepare ng financial statements, and then yan ang sinasubmit kay BIR. And then if you're noticing the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, naglalabas yan ng report in a yearly basis. Let's say, for example, sabihin nila, post yan sa website nila, the top bank for this year ay BDO when it comes to asset, when it comes to income, and when it comes to capital. So it means talagang yearly ang pag-prepare ng financial statement. But those company for management purposes, pag-aaralan naman nyo yan, management advisory services sa college, nagpre-prepare sila ng financial reports monthly to compare, no, to compare kung nasa na ba. Let's say for example, ay mas marami ang kinikita nung January at medyo bumaba ang sale nitong February. So for management purposes, so they need to make a strategy para mapataas muli yung sale, no, for the next period. So those are the comparisons. Okay, next natin. So the accounting period of the business may be a calendar year or fiscal year. A calendar year is a 12-month period that ends on December 31st. A fiscal year is a 12-month period that ends on any month of the year. Now, pag sinabing calendar year, of course, end ng December 31. So magpe-prepare sila or ang end period nila ay December 31. But for the company using the fiscal year, when I was in ADP, we are using a fiscal year. So every June 30, dun pa lamang nalalaman how much is the income that generated during the period with July 1 to June 30. July 1, let's say July 1, 2019 to June 30, 2020. And yan kasi mahalaga yan, no? Mahalaga yung accounting period na yan, no? Why? Because if the company incurred a lot of profit, maybe pwedeng mag-share or nagkakaroon din ng increases sa mga naman every June. Ayan, nariyan na, no? Aasa na yan. Based on their performance, magkakaroon ng increase from 18,000 a month, pwedeng maging 21,000. So those are something related to the time period assumptions. All right. Next is the generally accepted accounting principle or tinatawag natin GAAP. So the general accounting or accepted accounting principle consists of accounting principles, standards, rules, and guidelines that companies follow to achieve consistency and comparability in their financial statements. Companies that apply the GAAP help not only external users of accounting information, but also the management as well. So remember we already discussed that there are two for users, no, in financial statement or accounting information. Those are external and internal users. No? GAAP enhances the consistency and comparability of the company's financial statements. So GAAP also helps the management in understanding the trends, persistence in the company. No, when we talk about GAAP, this is the guidelines na sinusunod ng isang company. Now, let's say, actually, may mga company na they're using different methods. Let's say, for example, in computing the depreciation. And, we can use differently from every month. Or maybe pag-aaralan yan more details once you are in the college. But we need to follow the GAAP. No? There's a lot of principles stated in this GAAP, no? General Accepted Accounting Principles. Next is the International Financial Reporting Standard, or IFRS. Our pronouncement issued by the International Accounting Standard Board, or ISB, that intend to enhance the comparability. So very important, your comparability. Why? If using those standards, those principles, medyo mahirap i-compare. Why? Because kung ano-ano lang ginawa nyo, no? Wala kayong sinunod, so hindi mo masasabi na, ito, mahirap mong i-compare yung, let's say for example, yung nangyari nung June sa July because you are not using the standard. But if you are using the standard, the same standard provided by this, madali mong i-compare. No? Madali kang magkakaroon ng comparison. The Philippines is fully compliant. Of course, we need to do that. No? We need to comply. With the IFRS effective January 2005, the following factors was considered in decision to adopt the IFRS according pa rin kay VALIX. The Philippine Organization Support of International Accounting Standard, increasing internalization of businesses, which greatly calls for a common language for financial reporting. Improvement of international accounting standard or removal of free choice of accounting treatment. International accounting standard being recognized by the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and World Trade Organization. Now, ang accounting, every 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, nagbabago-bago yan. Nagkakaroon ng mga changes. Mostly sa mga names. No? Before, ang tawag natin ay income statement. But right now, we call it a statement of financial performance. We will be discussing that next school year, next first sem. And probably Sir Tony will teach you that. Although I thought that last sem, but probably Sir Tony will teach you that. Sir Tony kasi ay graduate na accountancy. So he's more familiar with that. So Philippine Financial Reporting Standards. The Philippine Financial Reporting Standard Council issues standards to be used in the Philippines in the form of Philippine Financial Reporting Standard. The PFRS include PFRS, which correspond IFRS, PAS or Philippine Accounting Standard, which correspond to International Accounting Standard or IS. Those are the standards. Okay, so do you have any questions? All right, so if you don't have any questions, and if yes, maybe I will attend to your question later. We will have a short quiz. Short quiz. This is time for you to take the screenshot and answer those questions and send it to my messenger. Okay, so that's it for chapter 6. And if you have some questions, so most probably by next sem, you still have questions regarding accounting, you can approach me, you can message me anytime. Okay, so thank you very much. And we will continue our discussion after answering this short quiz. Okay, so take the screenshot and send your answer to my messenger.